Hey everyone, I'm Lady.
And I'm Alana.
And this is Spookery. Guys, we're back in it. It's part 3, baby, of the complete history of the Titanic. And I put emphasis on the complete history because we've just finished all the prehistory for the history of the Titanic.
It's the truth. We just got to the Titanic. Episode 3. Let's go.
Yeah, it's only part 3. We've just hit the Titanic. You can tell how much context I've put into this bad boy. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're going to be quite done with the Titanic by the end of this episode. But we'll see where the episode takes us. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling kind of jazzy. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's see.
So, as always, guys, this is part 3 of my Titanic miniseries. If you have not listened to part 1 and 2, I highly recommend you just not listen to this one just yet. Go back, listen to the other 2. They are very fundamental context for what we were about to talk about. Though technically, if you're not interested in all the context and you don't want all the puzzle pieces, this is probably the best place to start if you don't want that. So, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just a voice on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. We have no power.
We have no power, but I would highly recommend going back 2 episodes and listening to the beginning because it does make the story a little bit spookier. But if you're not interested in the abridged history of the White Star Line, welcome to the Titanic, baby. We just got here.
We're here. We're here at the Titanic. This little baby, innocent baby, has no idea how horrible the seas are and what's in store.
She has no idea. She's not a clue. And I think this episode is really going to highlight how little both White Star Line and Titanic knew what was about to happen. Because it really was. It was just a voyage of hopes and dreams. And, well, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, no spoilers for what happens with the Titanic, but it's not pretty.
Yeah, this is not the time and place to spoil, I guess. We'll wait till the end.
Yes, we'll wait till the end. But, yeah, it's... As we said in both parts 1 and 2, this is a bit of a bummer. This episode will be a bit lighter compared to the other 2, but I'm thinking the one after this is going to be real heavy. So, if you're listening to these as they've just come out, maybe take a break, maybe, refresh your brain, recenter, watch something fluffy. I would not recommend sitting down and doing all of these in order. First of all, they're all 2 hours long, so what are you doing? Secondly, just make sure you give yourself some breath because this is a real event. These are real people. All of this really happened. And it's just kind of good to, recenter yourself and take yourself out of there for a little bit because it's very hard not to feel history. So, yeah, take care of yourself as well because you deserve it, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't have said it better, man.
Yeah, so I think without further ado, if you're here for the long haul, if you've listened to parts 1 and 2, or you just don't care and you're here, let's get into it. Let's get into the actual RMS Titanic. Last episode, we talked about the final 3 collisions that came before the Titanic, including the Titanic's older sister, the Olympic. Olympic was supposed to be the pride and joy of the White Star Line. She was the way that they were going to fight the Lusitania. She was the way we were going to fight the Mauretania. And then on her 5th voyage, she met the bad side of a battleship. And she may have come out the winner, but she was definitely not all good at the end of it. Limping along, she's taken some pieces out of Titanic. But we're here. Olympic's back on the water. Titanic is ready for her worldwide debut. So let's talk about the Titanic.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're actually going to rewind a little bit because we've got to go back to before the Olympic ever got hit by the Hawk. We're going to go back a little bit.
All right.
Because now we're talking about the Titanic. We're talking about the real deal, baby.
Yeah, okay.
She's the star, after all. So the Olympic and the Titanic were ordered at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. The plan was always that the Titanic was going to be 3 months behind the Olympic. The Olympic was going to be the prototype, but the Titanic was going to really seal the deal. She was going to iron out all the crinkles that the Olympic came up with. She was going to be bigger. She was going to be better. She was going to be faster. And everything that anyone complained about with the Olympic, the Titanic was going to fix.
Wow. There
was also plans to make a 3rd one if the 2 of them did well. But after the Olympics' grandstand ovation and her success, the 3rd ship was immediately ordered. And at the time of the ordering, her name was the Gigantic, but she does not keep that name.
Oh, goodness.
So, but the original 3-month delay behind the Olympic, that actually got extended because, whoa, these ships are real big. These are some really big boats, and they are the biggest in the world.
Dang.
The Olympic was actually designed to be delayed purposely so that Harland and Wolff could put both in the yard at the same time, but they could alternate work. So when the hull was finished for the Olympic, they could work on the hull on the Titanic, then they would move over back to the Olympic and the Titanic, and it would take about 3 months to complete them both. So I think probably their hulls were completed very close to each other.
Gotcha.
There's also an intense amount of labor to get these things built. Like, that's a lot of people, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, as I remember, as we remember from the past 2 episodes, the White Star Line does not believe in speed. Speed, it's not for the White Star Line. They're all about luxury, baby. It's all about feeling like a princess in your third-class suite. So, Olympic and Titanic were actually designed to help phase out the Teutonic and the Majestic. Now, you remember, those used to be the stars of the White Star Line show, but they're getting a little old. They're coming up at their 20-year mark of service. Ocean liners, they don't really have much of a longevity after that. You know, they work for 20 years, and then they're either sold or scrapped. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So, the Olympic and the Titanic were fully designed to take out the Teutonic and the Majestic, which we talked about in the previous episode if you haven't listened to it already. So now, at the time of construction of the Olympic and the Titanic, money was no object. Pretty much, they just, Harland and Wolff just got a paper saying, whatever you need, put it on my tab. Spend what needs on the ship. Just make the ship happen.
All right.
Make ship happen.
Make ship happen.
Make ship happen. So the cost of the Titanic alone was about $7.5 million.
Holy guacamole. That's a lot of bucks.
That's a lot, and that's just for the Titanic. Now, keep in mind, the Olympic was probably exactly the same, if not more, because she was the first.
Yeah.
So, naturally, Harland and Wolff put their best designers on the job. And they actually employed the owner of Harland and Wolff, nephew, Thomas Andrews Jr. We talked about him in our last episode. He was on the maiden voyage of the Olympic, making sure that she was working correctly.
Okay.
So he was Lord Peary's nephew. He was designer of both the Olympic and the Titanic and the Gigantic in her early phases.
Okay.
So the design, after Thomas Andrews took a look at it, was actually handed over to Lord Peary for final review and approval. The Olympic was dubbed Project 400 because she was the 400th ship ever designed by Harland and Wolff.
Wow.
And the Titanic, naturally, was Project 401. So 15,000 men were employed to help on the construction of the Titanic alone. This is not including the Olympic. This is just for the Titanic.
Yeah.
This was also not a very safe business to be in. So during her construction, 246 injuries were recorded, with 28 of those being noted as severe. Now, this includes, severed limbs, broken legs, things fallen on people.
Jeez.
There were 6 reported deaths on the ship itself while it was being constructed.
Okay.
With another 2 dying in the shipyard workshops, not on the ship. So that's 8 deaths in total just to build the Titanic.
Jeez. Is this also how OSHA was implemented?
This is how OSHA was implemented.
Jeez.
This is before OSHA, but yeah, basically, but it was kind of an expected occupational hazard. If you were working on ships, something was going to happen. You were going to lose a finger. You were going to break a bone. You were going to fall. Something was going to fall on you. Falling was a big thing. So, yeah. Speaking of falling, just before her lunch, another worker was killed from a falling wood support as they were finishing her. So,
all right.
so Titanic's already taking lives, and she's not even on the water yet.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Blood, sweat, and tears literally went into the making of this thing.
Quite literally. So let's talk specs, which we kind of covered in the last episode, but it's okay because maybe you didn't listen to that episode. And the Titanic is slightly different than the Olympic.
Yeah.
So the Titanic was 882 feet 9 inches long, just to get real specific for you there.
Real specific.
Which is 296 meters, and she was about 92 feet 6 inches wide. So she's a big girl. And she was technically a little bit larger than the Olympic. She was the largest when she was around. So measuring from keel to bridge, from bottom to top, she was 104 feet tall.
That's tall.
She weighed about 52,000 tons.
Whoa, okay.
She a big girl.
Yeah.
She a big girl. She's not messing around. That's why they call her the Titanic.
Damn, she's a titan.
She is a titan. How do you use that word? Anyway. The Titanic was built from thousands, and I'm putting emphasis on the thousands, of 1-inch thick steel plates that were secured to her frame.
Wow.
They were secured by 3 million rivets. So, Just that's how she was put together.
That is not a. I don't know if that's good. That doesn't sound good.
That's the standard. That's how boats built. That's how a boat work.
Is that good? Are you sure?
Yes.
I don't know.
They've only had 5 incidents up until this point. That's how boats made. That's how a boat built.
Okay.
So riveting at the time, up until the Olympic and the Titanic, had to be done by hand. It was a very precise, very, very delicate system, and it was a high-cost skill. So if you were a riveter, you got paid dosh, like you were making bank.
Dang.
Now, keep in mind, that's 3 million rivets to do by hand. That's a lot of riveting.
Yeah.
So instead, the Titanic builders developed a new, faster riveting technique, which would actually help clear the main parts of the hull. And that worked great for all of the open parts on the side. Riveting with this new machine saved so much time and actually helped save a little bit of time.
Yeah, but was it good?
It was good. For now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's good until it isn't, right?
Well, don't read ahead. Ma'am,
I'm sorry.
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I was saying it worked really great for the hull.
Perfect.
But there were more sensitive areas of the ship hull that were difficult to reach or just required a much more precise touch because they didn't want to risk breaking anything. So hand riveting was still implemented on top of this new riveting technique.
Okay.
So for her passenger capacity, because I know you love to hear all about the passengers.
This passengers.
She could hold about 735 first-class passengers.
Wow.
About 674 second-class passengers.
Wow, and tell me, how many third-class passengers? How many?
1,078 third-class passengers.
Wow, holy guacamole, that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. That's not including the crew. She could hold 885 crew in addition to all of that.
Dang! So in total, do the math for me, baby. How many people is that?
That's great. I don't think I have that right next to us.
I'll do the math for you then, baby. Oh, hang on.
It's later in the script.
Oh, well, let's keep going. Try going.
All right. So all Olympic-class ships sported 10 decks. So they had 9 standard decks, and then they had an additional 10th deck, which was kind of like the bottom.
That is snazzy. That's a lot of decks.
It's a lot of decks. She was, and that's actually quite low for modern cruise ships today, which, think about that.
I've never been on a cruise ship because I'm scared of boats.
I live on boats all the time.
They're so scary.
They are a little scary. I will acknowledge that. I would not recommend living on a boat for very long. It's not my lifestyle, but that's okay. If you're living on boats, you're doing great. I'm so proud of you. I really hope that you don't have that really shitty cabin. You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh.
So out of her 10 decks, only 8 were designed for passenger use. So let's talk about the decks for a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
talk about them.
Starting at the top, we have the boat deck.
The boat deck.
The boat deck. So this was the topmost deck where the lifeboats, deck housing, and funnels were. So the funnels are the big chimneys that come out of the top.
Okay.
So those are the funnels. So if we were talking about the funnels, it's those big smokestacks on the top thing. Because now we're not using sails anymore. Sails, that's for old ships. Now we're only engines now.
Okay.
We got engines for days.
Engines for days, boys.
Yes. So at the front of the boat deck, we have the bridge and the wheelhouse. So that's where they steer and, see what they're sailing into.
Do the boat things.
They do the boat things over there, as well as the captain's quarters and the officer's quarters. So that's where all the big official boys, the top crew members, they live over there at the front of the ship near the bridge. There are also 2 observation platforms, one on the starboard, that's the right side, and the port, that's the left side for those who don't speak ship. And those were to help with docking. Docking. So yeah, you could look over the side and make sure you weren't slamming into the pier. We actually have those in modern day cruise ships. They're usually part of the bridge now, and there's a little peephole that you can see that you're not slamming into anything.
Oh.
The entrance to the first class grand staircase and the first class gymnasium are also over here.
Wow, we all know about the grand staircase.
The grand staircase. It's so grand.
So grand.
And it's also one of many.
Oh, well, that's not that grand, is it then?
Well, it's the grandest. It was the first class one, which means it was the grandest.
That's beg to diff.
So that was where the grand throw me off. You throw me off my groove. Yes, that was the entrance to the first class grand staircase and the first class gymnasium, as well as the first class lounge and the first class smoke room. They were all over in there. Near the back of the ship, we had the housing for the ship engineers and the much more modest second class grand staircase entrance.
How dare you even call it a grand staircase? It's a good staircase at best.
It's a venti staircase.
It's a venti staircase. Oh my God.
We got the grande staircase and the venti staircase.
Jeez.
Most importantly, this is also where the lifeboats were. This is where they were located. They were on the boat deck at the very top of the ship. That's important for later.
You said live boats?
The lifeboats.
Okay, I was like, what? The live boats? What's happening?
Lifeboat. The living boats were there.
I was like, don't go there.
So they were equally spaced on each side of the ship, except near where the first class entrance was, because we didn't want to obstruct their view.
Oh, of course not.
No. We can't block that view. That's where the paying customers are coming from. And we'll talk about the
Yeah, no, they'll be first ones on the boat anyway. The rich, they paid for that seat.
They're right there.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about the lifeboats shortly, but that's where they were. Next deck we're talking about is A deck.
Oh, I just thought you were just saying A deck anywhere.
A deck. No, this is A deck.
Gotcha.
Boat deck and then A deck.
Gotcha.
Because, that's how alphabet work.
Oh.
Everyone knows that the letter before A is boat.
His boat. The boat is silent.
Yes. It's not visible in most spectrums, but we know it's there. It's boat A, B, C, D.
It's implied.
It's implied. Yeah. Anyway, A deck.
A deck.
or the promenade deck. It ran the whole length of the ship. So this was actually an open, fully wraparound deck. You could see the ocean from every angle. This is actually still common today. Every cruise ship, at least that I've been on, has a promenade deck. This deck was exclusively for first-class passengers because peasants could not look at the ocean. That's a privilege, not a right.
Yeah. We're on the ocean. You get the gist.
Yeah, you can hear it. You don't have to see it.
No.
This was also where the first-class staterooms were located at the front of the ship. So all of the first-class passengers went down their grand staircase, and that's where they resided, on this promenade deck. This was also where the first-class lounge, another first-class lounge was, the smoke room for first class, as well as a reading and writing room, because you have to have both, as well as the palm court was located, and that was a swanky eatery.
Ooh.
A very swanky eatery.
Man.
So right below that, we have the B deck, which is also known as the bridge deck, which is not where the bridge was located, ironically enough.
Okay.
This was also a first-class deck. So this deck was mostly staterooms, and it also featured the finest of suites. This is where the luxury was. It was on B deck.
Ah.
So this included 2 parlor suites, which had their own private promenade. So you could actually go out, and there was this massive, expansive balcony that you could go on that was exclusively just for your stateroom.
Just for the rich people.
Just for 2 of the rich people. This was only for 2 of them, and it was for the richest of the rich people.
Dang.
Yeah. So there were 3 restaurants positioned at the back of the deck, and the second-class smoking room and entrance was also found on this floor.
Wow.
So below that, we have the C deck, or the shelter deck. This is where the third-class promenades were. So if you wanted to see the ocean, you had to go all the way down to C deck to look at the ocean. So this is another one of the decks that had an open, uninterrupted path all around the ship. You could walk around this. This is the this was also a recreation deck. So people could use this as a jogging lane. This is kind of where people could, sit and view the ocean if they wanted to, but this was exclusively for the third class.
Man, I don't know who's going on a cruise ship. I know these aren't cruise ships all the time, but who's going on one of these luxury places and gonna be I'm gonna exercise, I'm gonna go jogging on a boat.
You would be surprised at how many people are you know what I'd love to do? I'd like to jog the length of the ship. And I'm saying that because I am one of those people who has jogged the length of the ship.
Damn. Oh my God. If I'm on a boat, well, you lived on a boat, I guess it's different, but if I'm on a boat, it's going to be for a short period of time and I'm not doing anything other than drinking and eating and playing shuffleboard.
Yes, which is my philosophy for about the first 4 months of my time on the ship. And after a while, I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta do something.
Yeah.
I gotta do something.
That's fair.
So I did something. I jogged the length of the ship.
I'm proud of you. You are a better woman than I.
I hated it, but I did it.
They say jogging's good for you, but at what cost?
At what cost?
What cost?
I saw the ocean. It's the same all the way around. I'm gonna be honest with you. It looks exactly the same all the way around. So. So here's my weird personal anecdote for this, because as we've said, I lived on a cruise ship. I've stood on a recreation of the Titanic's promenade deck, of that circulation, and to say that it looked just like my cruise ship promenade decks is an understatement. It was so weird. I walked into this recreation and I was literally back on my cruise ship.
That's so crazy.
And it was this is what the Titanic's promenade deck, this is the view that they had when on the day of the disaster. And I'm just standing there going, this is my boat. This is my boat. I was on here. and it was just this really like surreal experience. So like So I've been on a couple of recreations of the Titanic, and I've just relived my own cruise ship time. So like boats, like these kind of boats have not changed that much, and it's a very eerie feeling.
It's weird to say like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it was really broke, and we should fix it.
Visually, it wasn't broke. It was the safety that was broke. That's been improved, but like visually, the only thing that's really changed is the material. We'll talk about that a bit later. So also on the sea deck, this was the third-class public room. So this was all like their lounges, their conference halls, as well as the second-class library was on this deck. So now we have the D deck, or the saloon deck, and this was the first-class reception room. This also had the first-class dining saloon and the second-class dining saloon. Second and third-class cabins were found on this deck as well, separated from the first class because we don't mingle.
I was gonna say I cannot believe they made the rich people look at the poor people. That's crazy.
Yes, no, they barely spoke, and it was also very frowned upon. You did not interact. You don't do that. This was also the last deck, from the bottom to the top, where the watertight compartment is reached, and it was barely, like only a couple of the watertight compartments reached this deck. Okay. So hold on to that for a little bit later.
Okay.
So E deck, also known as upper deck, was for passenger accommodation, and this was actually had staterooms for all three classes. So there was first class accommodation on here, second and third. This is also where the crew rooms began, and this was mostly for cooks, sailors, stewards, and trimmers. So as part of the third class cabin row, there was a passage called Scotland Road, which is basically named after a famous street in Liverpool. We have them on cruise ships. Ironically enough, on my cruise ships, they were called the I-5. And it's, it's just a reference to a famous road. Okay. And once again, this was one of the recreations I went on. And to say that I wasn't back on my cruise ship sitting on the I-5 looking at Scotland Road, and I was like,
That really does have to be so surreal, like you said, of just, it's like, going somewhere and being like, man, this is like what like a house fire looked like at this house. And you're like, this is my floor plan. This is my house. Like, I've lived here. This is what I would have seen had I been in this tragic situation. Like, it really is a very surreal thing to be in.
Yeah, it's like the way that the walls were lined, the same color of paint, like it's exactly the same. Just that row of cabins that go down, just that long stretch of hallway where it's just like you just go down there and that's where your cabin is. And it looked just like the crew highway underneath the ship. Yeah. And I just remember standing there in this recreation of Scotland, and it wasn't very long. It was like, they had like the painted wall in the back telling it goes on for this way, but here's like what we built. And I just remember standing in what they built and just going, I've been here. Yeah. Like it's a very, it was a fantastic exhibition to see all these recreations, but it was a very surreal thing for a cruise ship person to be on and just be like, okay. Yeah. Nothing has changed and this could have been my boat.
Yeah, but like in a weird way, like as horrible as it sounds, like it's almost like that's kind of their intent, right? Is to show you like how, like you said, like realistic, like this is what these people were faced with. Like it was very scary, and so it really speaks to how good of a job they did that it kind of brought you back to, as unfortunate as it was, like it's like, man, it's very powerful. It really, really was a powerful exhibition, like you said.
It was. And the other thing to remember with Scotland Road is that was actually for third class passengers, not for crew. Mine is for crew, which is a view that most people who go on cruise ships will never see. But for crew, our I-5 looked just like Scotland Road. And it was just a very strange experience. And like, I'm not, I'm not just like curled up at a quarter crying about it, but it was just one of those, like, not much has changed. And, safety on modern cruise ships is much better, but like, just that fear of knowing that something around me is sinking and I can't see outside. All I can see is this road. It's,
That's gotta be a crazy feeling. Like you said, just an unimaginable feeling.
I know I spent a good time in all of the recreations just going, man, am I glad I'm not on cruise ships anymore.
Yeah, but like you said, that's kind of like those things are meant to make you think and to ponder and to, be grateful that you are not in that situation and to really give respect for, the moments that were there.
100%. So big shout out to cruise workers. You guys are doing the damn thing, but man, the Titanic was not that much different. Yeah. Just putting it out there.
Crazy, man.
Yes. So moving swiftly on from upper deck, we're going on to F deck or middle deck.
F deck.
So this was mostly populated by third-class cabins. There were a couple of second-class and crew accommodations too, but they were kind of like, if you pay for the lower class, second-class tickets, you were here. The third-class dining saloon was also here, as well as the swimming pool and Turkish baths for the first-class passengers, because, we're just so swanky.
So swanky.
So swanky. So G deck came after, which was also called the lower deck. And this is the deck with the lowest portholes above the water. So this was pretty much like, if you wanted to see the water, this was as low as you could go before you were below water.
Yeah.
This held exclusively third-class accommodation, as well as the post office, because remember, we're a Royal Mail ship and we're carrying postage.
Man, it's weird to think that a whole ass post office, though, like you said, is just on this cruise ship.
Yeah, we had a whole ass post office, and this was also where our food storage was on G deck.
Okay.
So after G deck, you have Orlop deck. I know, it's such a cool word, Orlop deck.
What does it mean?
So the final and lowest deck was the Orlop deck, which is basically 3 decks kind of smushed into one.
It sounds like he's the boss. Like, that's like Orlop's deck.
That's Orlop. We don't talk about Orlop.
Yeah, you have to get through, like, the first 12 decks to get, and then you get to Orlop's deck. Like,
yeah, and he, every ship's got an Orlop, and you've got to feed him. And if you don't feed him, bad things happen. And I guess the Titanic just did not feed Orlop this particular cruise.
That's why the food storage is 1 deck above that, You just got to keep him close.
Yeah, so Orlop could break through rather than, break through the ship.
Yeah.
No, so the Orlop deck is basically 3 decks, and this was exclusively used for cargo space. So pretty much it was 3 decks high. There were a couple of shelves sometimes, but it was basically, this was the cargo space. This was the housing for the boilers, the engines, the turbines, all of the electrical stuff. This was the bottom of the ship. This is the electrical system. This is where it was.
Yeah.
Passengers generally wouldn't see it, but it was connected to the D deck via a twin spiral staircase in case anyone needed to get from Orlop to the top, in case they needed to get to the lifeboats for whatever reason.
All right.
So, speaking of her specs, Titanic's boilers were massive, and I mean they were massive. She had 24 double-ended boilers, which were all about 16 foot wide.
Wow.
She was also equipped with 5 single-ended ones, just in case those double-ended ones didn't quite work, though they were only 12 foot wide.
Okay.
All of the boilers were fed 850 tons of coal each day.
Wow.
So we were no longer coal efficient. We are coal guzzling.
Yeah.
Because we are built for speed.
That's great. That's why we needed such a big crew. Like you said, I'm sure half of them are down there just shoveling coal.
Yep, half of them are stokers.
That's crazy.
So this is quite a difference between the early White Star Line ships, because they were complaining about how they didn't have 140 tons of coal, and now we're feeding our engines 850 tons of coal every single day.
That's wild. That is an unimaginable amount of coal. Like I said, that's crazy.
And all coal was shoveled by hand.
Wow.
We have not automated the system yet. It's all hand shoveled.
Man.
So the Titanic's central anchor was the largest on board and alone weighed 15.5 tons.
Okay.
That's just her central anchor. She has many more.
Jeez.
But her central anchor weighed 15.5 tons. The anchor was so heavy, to get it onto the Titanic in the first place, it needed 20 horses to pull it.
Oh my gosh. That's just gotta be crazy, as far as, I don't know. I feel like there was an experiment of just kind of they just added horses until it started to move a little bit, and they're just kind of oh my gosh, just 1 more horse. Nope, 2 more horses. Another horse. Oh, it's moving. There it goes. We need that was it, 20 horses. That was the magic
20
number.
horses. I feel like they started with the smaller anchors. They're we have the 2 side anchors, and they only needed about 15 horses. So we'll start with 15, and then we'll go and see how many extra horses we need. 20 is the magic number, baby.
20's it.
20's it.
Crazy.
So the Titanic's anchor was actually the largest anchor of its time. So that's why it was such a marvel of engineering. It was a 15.5 ton anchor. It was the largest of its time for the largest boat of its time.
Jeez.
She was also equipped with 3 separate propellers, not unlike her sister, the Olympic, because the Olympic stole one of them.
Jeez.
The central propeller was equipped with 4 blades and had an amazing diameter of 17 feet.
Wow.
So this propeller alone was 17 foot tall. They had 2 more on the side, which each had 3 blades, and they had a diameter of 23.5 feet.
Whoa. These are some big propellers.
Big propellers, big boys.
Yeah.
We have massive boilers, we have massive engines, we have massissive propellers. The ship is going at a whopping regular speed of an ocean liner.
And when it stops, it stops.
Speed doesn't matter, baby.
Oh my gosh, man.
So, all the ships at this time, the goal was to design the ship that would reduce the risk of flooding, because flooding was basically the Achilles heel of every ocean liner ever. If you could avoid flooding, you could eliminate the chances of foundering, which is basically your ship goes under.
Okay.
So both the Olympic and the Titanic, had an inner skin on the inside of its hull, which was basically just a second layer of 1.25 inch thick steel above the keel, which created like a watertight box. So if like the first layer was punctured, you'd have another layer to protect you.
Okay.
So it was a backup mechanism. So in case anything scraped along the side, you had another layer, another protective hull to protect you.
Yeah.
This is called a double bottom, and this was also to help with buoyancy.
Oh, okay. I don't know about buoyancy, but I'm gonna say that makes so much sense.
But buoyancy basically is just like how well you float.
No, I mean, I know the definition of it, but I have no idea how to make things float. So I'm just like, wow.
I don't know. I'm not going to assume.
Actually, that extra layer, I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely helps for sure.
Yeah. So if you create air pockets, if you've got trapped air, it's going to help you float.
That makes sense.
Yes. It was watertight, which means no water got in, unless it got in.
In which case we don't talk about it.
And then it's not a watertight compartment, then it's just a pocket.
That's just where we keep our extra water at that point.
Yeah. And we're just sipping the salt water.
It's just water storage. Don't talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I won't. On top of all of the decks and inner skins and buoyancy and whatnot and hoo-haws and everything that was inside there, the Titanic was broken up into 16 watertight compartments. So all along they had basically divide her into 16 pieces. So she was broken up by 15 steel bulkheads, which basically is what makes it watertight. They run the length of the ship, and then they help stop flooding. So if one compartment is breached, you seal off the bulkheads. Water stays contained in one of those compartments.
Oh gosh.
So these watertight compartments were about 45 foot tall from the bottom to the top.
Okay.
So they only made it to about E deck, except for a couple of them which made it to D deck in the lower portions of D deck. For context, the Titanic is 104 foot tall, so the 45 foot tall bulkheads are not spanning the length of the ship. They're stopping at a certain point.
Okay.
So basically, if the water rises above that point, all of it's going to flood. So as long as they can contain the flooding below those decks, below E deck, we're good.
Well, we're good. Okay, cool. We're good.
We're good. We're good.
We're so good.
Nothing bad will happen.
No.
Nothing bad happened to the Titanic.
I wonder where this is going.
I couldn't imagine. There's a reason for everything that we talk about here on Spookery.
Yeah.
And sometimes the reason is funny, and sometimes it's because it's foreshadowing.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
So, each watertight compartment was equipped with an electric pump to help remove water, just in case one of them, heaven forbid, did get some water in there.
Yeah.
And all compartments could be sealed with automatic doors. The doors could be controlled at the door themselves with a lever, or they could be controlled from the bridge at a push of a button, in case of an emergency.
In case.
Now, the Titanic's rivals, the Lusitania and the Mauretania, those Cunard, they had utilized something called a longitudinal bulkhead.
What the heck is that?
So that means that, as well as the latitudinal ones, where they're dividing, if you've got the length of the ship and they're dividing them this way, like a cucumber and a knife, slicing it that way.
Yeah.
The longitudinal ones are going the other way, so they're running parallel to the other ones. So they're cutting the ship in half. Long, so like if you're slicing a banana in half.
Okay.
That's a longitudinal one. The longitudinal bulkheads are incredibly dangerous, and they are no longer utilized in ship design. But back in the day, they were like next best thing in safety. Longitudinal bulkheads, not only are we dividing the ship the other way, but we're also dividing it this way. Longitudinal bulkheads actually help contribute ships to tilting. So the worst thing that a ship can do is list, where it tilts one way or another. If you puncture a longitudinal bulkhead, that compartment's going to fill with water and the whole ship's going to tilt that way. It's not ideal. It's better to keep it central, keep the water in one latitudinal one. But the Lusitania and Mauretania had that, and White Star Line was like, that is so fucking stupid. Cunard, you really fucked that one up. Why did you do that? Longitudinal bulkheads are for stupid ships. Titanic, no siree bob, not got them.
All right. Well.
So that was the one thing that the Titanic had on the Mauretania and the Lusitania. Better bulkheads.
I think that's going to be the thing to save it.
Yeah, I think so. There's actually another case that I would love to talk about that actually talks about the disaster of longitudinal bulkheads, but that's, once again, it's a story for another time, and we may mention it later in the story, but it's fine. Anyway, so the Titanic was, speaking of, safety features and things that help the Titanic stay afloat, the Titanic was designed to hold 64 lifeboats.
Okay.
It's pretty
How
good.
many people can a lifeboat hold?
These particular ones could hold 65 people.
Oh, okay. Real quick.
So should we do the math real quick?
Yeah, quick math.
Let's do the math real quick. Let's do the quick maths.
65 times 64. That's 4,160.
Oh, great. That's perfect. That's exactly what we needed. So the capacity of the Titanic, because here it is, was at 3,320. So that's over capacity. So we're great.
Wow.
She was designed to hold 64. Pretty good. However, only 20 were installed. Not good.
Not good. Not good.
Not good.
Oh, God.
So let's do some more quick maths real
Yeah.
quick. So 20 times 65, 1,300.
Yes.
Significantly less than the capacity of the Titanic.
Yeah, that ain't good.
Ain't good, bud.
No.
That's probably about a third of all passengers.
But it's okay because nothing is gonna go wrong.
Nothing is going to go wrong. Nothing is going to go wrong. So 16 of these lifeboats were real solid wood lifeboats. They were, mounted to the side. They were full heckin' boats. They were designed. 4 of them were collapsible rafts. So they also had a lower capacity. So not only do we have 16 that could only hold 65, we had 4 that could hold less than 65.
And then 13 of them were literal blow-up rafts. They just had to sit there for like 5 minutes, with the little...
Yep. And then, attached to the water slide, we have like those rings, but they're all collapsed for the winter because it's April. Why would we need
No,
those?
we're not going to need them.
We're not going to need those.
Yeah.
So the Titanic was only equipped with 20. 16 were the full-length real wood lifeboats. 4 were collapsible rafts with a lower occupancy. I think they only had a max occupancy of 50. So that means that all of these lifeboats could only hold about 1,178 people at max capacity.
That's wild.
1,178 out of 3,320 doesn't check out.
No, this is a bad math problem at school. That would give me anxiety, and I would have nightmares about it after class.
Yeah, at that point, you just write on the problem. Bad math doesn't check out.
Bad math, nope. Unsolvable.
Nope, not checking out.
No.
Unsolvable.
No.
Couldn't do it. Does not compute.
No.
Not enough lifeboats, and then you call it a
Yeah.
day. So the reason why only 20 lifeboats, 16 proper lifeboats and 4 collapsibles were installed was actually to make more space for passengers. They wanted first class to have more view of the ocean because that's what they paid for. They wanted to make sure that there was more space for, just admiring the Titanic because of how beautiful she was. She was so much better than Cunard.
Man.
So the idea behind this, really, and this was pretty much reinforced by all of the disasters we faced up until this point, the Titanic was the ultimate lifeboat. You even said it when the Olympic got hit by the Hawk.
It's unsinkable.
These ships are unsinkable.
Yeah.
They're unsinkable. So worst case scenario, if something hits the Titanic and she's taken in water, those watertight compartments are immaculate. There's another ship that's really close by that's just going to come and help. And the Titanic, she's a beast. She's just going to turn around, go back to England, get patched up, and go right back into the ocean.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
If only it was that simple.
If only it was that simple. So, here's the other real kicker of all of this, is that the Titanic and the Olympic actually exceeded safety procedures for their time with what they had installed.
Of course they did.
Just those 20 lifeboats, they were actually above standard. So when all of the inspectors came on and were looking at all of the lifeboats and all of the life belts and everything that could have potentially saved more lives, they were like, you have more than you need. You could actually take some off if you wanted to.
Yeah, make more room for views. You gotta sell seats.
Yeah, butts and seats.
Butts and seats.
Butts and seats. Money's we keeps.
Money's we keeps.
So, during the Titanic's construction, the Olympic had her crash with the Hawk. We knew this. Pieces were starting to be taken from the Titanic to repair the Olympic.
Yeah.
This delayed the Titanic. She was only supposed to be 3 months behind the Olympic. Now we're taking propellers out of her. We're taking pieces. We're taking hole patches. We're taking little pieces of her. We're replacing them onto the Olympic. Delays got bigger. Mm-hmm. The prime piece that the Olympic took was the Titanic's propeller shaft, which this delayed completion significantly. These, as we said, they're supposed to launch not far off from each other. The Olympic returned to service in November 1911, and in February, she was immediately had another issue with the propeller blade snapping off, so she was back in Belfast, which delayed the Titanic further.
Jeez.
So more pieces are being taken by the Titanic. The delays are getting excessive. On top of this, baby Ismay, our boy, he was admiring the Olympic and all of her problems, that he was like, I've actually got some last-minute changes that I want to make just based on how people are reacting to the Olympic, how she's performing, what people like, what people don't like.
Oh, gosh.
These were not safety features that were being implemented.
Yeah.
They were just adjusted accommodation for first-class passengers. It was like, here's your better view, here's your better dining opportunity, here's some seats, here's things to make your life more comfortable on this amazing boat.
Yeah.
These changes made the Titanic heavier because it was all luxury. And this is something that I had saw when I went to my exhibition. All of the materials and, pieces of furniture that were picked specifically for the first class, they were heavy woods, they were heavy fabrics, they were heavy metals. It was very decadent, very large furniture, stuff you do not see on cruise ships nowadays. Now it's all like, steel bunks and, a nice airy mattress, even if you're in a first class. But here it's just like, you want on a 4-poster canopy bed with satin sheets and hanging drapes with velvet curtains to draw upon your lovely promenade.
Oh my gosh.
It's heavy stuff, so her tonnage is going up.
Yeah.
She's heavier. So she not only is she carrying some very decadent people, she's carrying some very decadent furniture. So she's going a little bit deeper in the water. She's dipping a little bit.
Yeah.
She double dipping.
That's not good.
Yes. And they were also losing practical space in favor of furnished staterooms. So take that with take that as you will.
That's a lost situation to me. But I'm also
Yes.
the one not making the profits, so it's hard to say.
Yes. So Titanic's maiden voyage was originally scheduled for March 20th, 1912. And this got delayed by a full 3 weeks, which is not bad considering how many pieces were taken out of her. So now, instead, the Titanic was now set to sail with a full load of passengers on the 10th of April, 1912, which is the date we know today. And it's one of those ironic things, like if she had been completed on time, if she had been on time 3 weeks earlier, or delayed even further and pushed another 3 weeks later, I wonder what the outcome would have been.
Did you say 1812?
1912. 1812 is the overture. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't know where I said 1812. Maybe I did. She was scheduled March 20th, 1912. Got delayed by 3 weeks. Now she's set to sail on the 10th of April, 1912.
I just had to, because my brain picked it up for a moment. I'm just like, wait a minute, maybe you didn't. But I was like, are we still in the 19s?
If I did, we are in the 19s.
Okay.
We're blessedly in the 19s. We're in 1912. This is the year it all happened, baby.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So her maiden voyage is now scheduled for the 10th of April, 1912, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves because remember, before every maiden voyage, you've got to have your sea trials, you've got to have your launch. So the Titanic's launch took place on May 31st, 1911, so all the way back the year before. So we just covered how many delays on with the Titanic there were with pieces, parts, design changes. So at the time of her launch, the Titanic was nothing more than a hull and some anchors.
It's not good.
None of the interior decorations were finished. None of the fine scrubbing was done. It was basically she was an inverted bathtub at this point.
Okay.
Even still, she drew a remarkable crowd. J.P. Morgan, Baby Ismay, and Lord Peary were all in attendance, as well as 100,000 onlookers.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
They came to look at the bathtub.
Wow.
Yeah, this was a big deal because the Olympic was such a success. And I believe the Olympics already done on maiden voyage at this point. They're coming to see the second one, even if she's just a skeleton at this point, she's still a sight to behold, and she's bigger. She's bigger than the Olympic, even in this state.
Wow.
So at 12:13, same day, on our lovely May 31st, 1911, red rockets were fired into the sky to signal the beginning of the launch.
Wow.
As well as to warn other nearby ships to stay the fuck away. We're about to put an inverted bathtub in the water.
Yeah.
Please do not get in our way. At the signal, the hydraulic triggers holding onto the Titanic on the dock were released, and she was let go, and everyone watched her slide into the river.
Wow.
So the dock, to make sure that her sliding was as efficient as possible, was greased with 22 tons of tallow and soap, so that when she was released, she could just slip right in.
I'm sure that was so good for the sea life.
She literally slipped into River Lagan. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I don't know what sea life is prevalent in that Irish river. I'm sure they did not appreciate a soapy, lard-smeared hull flying into the river.
God. Oh.
So the launch itself took 62 seconds from where she was mounted to where she was launched. Rockets fired.
Wow.
Just slipped right in. Took a whole minute.
Man.
As was White Star Line tradition, the Titanic was not christened. No champagne was wasted on this inverted bathtub. And as we said, she was far from complete, and she would need another 10 months of work to completely finish and get her ready for her maiden voyage. So she was 10 months behind.
Wow. But at least she's on the water now.
But she's in the water, and then they immediately pull her back up, put her in the shipyard, and get her refitted.
Wow, what was the point of that?
It's a launch, just to make sure she floats.
I guess, but like that's so anticlimactic. They're like, great, okay, put her back up.
Voyage yet.
Great.
Yep, great, she floats. Pack it. Let's finish her. Good job.
Lame.
Well done.
Lame.
Good job, everybody. So in the 10 months between her launch and the sea trials, the Titanic went through major changes to her superstructure. So she was retrofitted with 4 funnels, which, here's a fun fact for you, only 3 of them were for the exhaust of the boiler. The other one, her 4th funnel, was just because it looked cool.
I love that.
So here's a fun petty rivalry fact for you. So the Lusitania had 4 funnels, 4 functioning funnels. And the Titanic really only needed 3 because she was a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
However, people were going to see a 3-hulled ship and go, she's not as powerful. The Lusitania has 4 funnels because she's so strong. So why would we pick a less powerful ship? So they put the 4th funnel on, one, because it looked cool, but basically because they didn't want people to think she was weaker than the Lusitania or the Mauretania.
Wow.
They were like, she's just as good, if not better. And she was. She was more efficient, but they had to just put that decorative piece because people are easily fooled. Especially if you were out in the shipyard and you were like, point to the most powerful ship, you're going to look for the one with the biggest engines, even if it's not true.
Yeah, that's true. People, like you said, love like a 4 or 6 cylinder engine. They're just like, oh my god, like look at those big engines.
Yeah, so like it's like if you hear a loud engine versus like, a silent engine, you're like, okay, which one's more powerful? You're probably going to pick the loud engine, even if it's not true. Just because it's flashy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 4th funnel was basically used for internal ventilation. That was its only purpose.
That's so funny. They're like, ooh, it just looked good.
It's just so rad. Lusitania has one, so we have to have one. Them's the rules. All right. So, in those 10 months, this is when her staterooms, dining rooms, smoke lounges, Turkish baths, pretty much everything inside of that ship that we just covered in the deck plan, that's when this was all furnished. In those 10 months.
In those 10 months.
In those 10 months, from when her inverted bathtub was pushed into the river to when she was ready to go out to sea. In those 10 months is when everything internal was fitted. Wow. I don't know why I got really aggressive there, but you know what? It's fine. I'm really impassioned with those inner furnishings. I don't know what it is.
I mean, that's like the best part, right? Is getting to furnish the ship. You spent this whole time like on the outside, soldering, smoldering, fucking not christening, and you finally want to furnish. It's time to furnish it.
To furnish the ship.
Months.
Put the baths in. She's got bathtubs in bathtubs.
You put more bathtubs in my giant bathtub.
Pretty much. This giant inverted bathtub has Turkish bathtubs inside of her bathtubs.
I mean...
Anyway, she's fitted. She's real pretty.
She's good. She's great.
She's really...
But she's heavy.
She's real heavy. She's fucking heavy. It's included with those Turkish baths. That's a lot of water inside the boat that we don't really want water being in the first place. There's some filled bathtubs inside an inverted bathtub. Is it an inverted bathtub yet, or is it just a wet tube? We don't know.
This is just so much. Man, but how luxurious is that? Taking a bath on a freaking, like, in a giant bathtub? Like a bath in a bathtub?
A bath in a giant...
While you're looking out at the biggest bathtub in the world? So the biggest natural bathtub?
So they had these Turkish baths, which were these massive bathtubs to begin with, and they're on the world's largest inverted bathtub. You just can't get better than this.
It's just the best.
It was worth it. Those 10 months of interior furnishing, 100% worth it. And that's why I got so impassioned, I think.
That's why.
That's why. Not because I couldn't say the sentence, but because I just really love bathtubs.
You just really love bathtubs.
I really love bathtubs.
Okay, don't question my love of bathtubs.
Don't question my love of bathtubs. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Titanic sea trials were scheduled for the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, and also the anniversary of the SS Atlantic because our timing is just impeccable.
Yeah, I was going to say the April Fool's thing is coming back again.
It's coming back again because everything in the White Star Line is just one big joke.
It's all a joke.
It's just one big joke. However, just like that faithful day, the weather was miserable, just terrible. Water was rough, visibility was terrible, and they were like, hey, we've learned from our mistakes. Let's not do it today. Let's delay it by one day. We'll do it
by one day.
We'll do April 2nd instead.
Oh my gosh. The way you were saying that, I was like, man, it sounds like that book like from when we were kids. Like it's like the Titanic and the terrible, no good, very bad day.
And yeah, that was it. It was April 1st. April 1st was just a terrible, no good, dreadful, just no-go day.
No-go day.
April 2nd, perfect day. Sun was shining.
Perfect
Water
day.
was calm. Time to get the Titanic out in open water. A skeleton crew boarded her, and off to sea she went. Basically, she did everything that the Olympic did. She was testing maneuverability. She was testing stops. She was testing turns. She was testing basically good. Did she float? Boat float. Boat float good.
Boat float. Good.
Boat float good. So she would be declared seaworthy by the Board of Trade, those guys again, at the end of April 2nd on the very same day that she set out for her trials. That's how well she did.
Wow. Nice. They're like 10 out of 10. You passed with flying colors. She's like, great, goodbye.
Okay.
And she sailed off.
Yep, she was like, I'm so excited for my maiden voyage. I can't wait. It can't go any better than this. Yeah.
Oh, God. Famous last words.
So the sea trials included speed tests, turning ability, crash stops were performed. This is when the engines are quickly kicked into reverse just to see how quickly she could stop. She was better than the Olympic. It only took her 3 minutes and 15 seconds to stop. Her maximum speed was recorded at 21 knots, which is 24 miles per hour or 39 kilometers, which is a little bit slower than Lusitania and the Mauritania, but still pretty sizable. Like, still pretty fast.
I mean, yeah, but that's with no passengers on it. We gotta get all the people in the bathtub.
Yeah, but the Turkish baths are full. We have loaded those. The water,
okay.
The water is in the bathtubs. The canopy beds are the velvet has been laid on. Like, all of our wooden chairs are unfolded and on the decks. She's going.
Still says.
So, yeah, 12 hours of testing, declared seaworthy, big stamp of approval. Board of Trade was like, we love her so much. Great ship. Really good. Really outdid it this time, White Star Line. Olympic class, better than Cunard. And they were like, yeah, we are. We're better than Cunard.
Yeah, we are. Say it again.
Say it again. Tell us again. We really need this. Literally an hour later, after being declared seaworthy by the Board of Trade, she literally set sail for Southampton to get ready for her maiden voyage. So, like, literally, she was like, okay, we're good. All right, I'm going to go get ready. I'm going to go put my face on. The show's about to begin. Like, take your seats.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. So the journey from where her sea trials took place to Southampton was about 570 miles. It took about 28 hours to get there. She arrived in Southampton about midnight on April 4th, and the stage was set. The curtain was getting ready to part. It was time to get the Titanic, the best in her class, significantly better than her older sister. It was time for her maiden voyage.
Time for her maiden voyage. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So the Titanic sat in Southampton for 6 days before her maiden voyage. Just been pretty. Just been real nice. She was actually staged on the 5th of April, 1912. I caught myself there. She was staged on the 5th of April, 1912 for public viewing for paying guests. So people could pay a ticket, you could walk onto the Titanic, and you could actually come check her out, see what she was like, see what her interiors were like, check out those Turkish baths. Everyone loves a bathtub.
It's true.
She was pretty much all decked out. She was covered in White Star Line flags. She was covered with pennants all over, like, all of the ropes and rigging. They were all just decorated. She had lanterns lit. She was glowing.
Yeah, they dolled her up.
She was dulled. She was more dulled than her maiden voyage. It was just be like, look at our new ship. Look how cool she is.
Man, she look at her new lashes. She got her hair did. She's looking beautiful.
Oh yeah, she was ready for her debut. And like people were excited. They were like, look at the ship. Like White Star Line outdid themselves. Lusitania, Mauritania got nothing on her. So ironically enough, there was actually a coal strike happening around this time.
Oh no.
So the Titanic's coal should have been delivered before April 6th, but because of the strikes, White Star Line actually had to secure coal from other company ships. So they actually went around all of the other White Star Line ships that were in effect and like, hey, you got spare coal. Like, we need some of your reserves because, like, the Titanic's about to have her maiden voyage. She needs to be stocked.
We know you have extra coal.
She needs to be stocked up. We double-checked you have extra coal. Give us the extra coal.
Give
her the coal. Yeah, so, of course, maiden voyages, they're not super common, so they're kind of rare. So, of course, all the other White Star Line ships are like, sure, like, here's our extra reserves. We'll wait out. We can make it to our destinations. Take the coal. Make sure that the Titanic has a great maiden voyage because this is a big deal. So they managed to get enough coal. Titanic was ready.
Wow. Oh.
she's there. The clouds parted, the sun was shining. Everyone was like, look at that boat. It's a good boat.
She's ready.
She's ready. Great. April 10th, 1912. The seaport is reeling with anticipation. Literally people all over the world have poured in to Southampton just to like look at the White Star Line, to travel on her, like just to be near the Titanic on this moment. Because like it's a big fucking deal. Maiden voyages are like, they're not super common, especially for White Star Line.
Yeah. Actually, this boat's about to lose her virginity. It's a big moment.
What did you say?
That's what a maiden voyage is.
You said it with such gumption. I was so disarmed. I was ready to agree with you. I was like, yeah, wait. I got like whiplash for how quickly that just hit me. I was like, whoa, man. On my Christian podcast?
Oh my goodness.
But yes, you're not wrong. It was her first time out at sea. She was gonna pop that ocean cherry. So, yeah, people were gathering either to travel on the Titanic or just to watch history in the making because she was the largest ship ever built. At the time of her debut, she was the biggest British-built ship specifically. There were bigger German ones, but we don't count them.
No.
Departure time was scheduled for noon that day, and her return trip was already set for April 20th. So she was already had her return voyage planned and booked, and everything. Tickets were being sold.
Wow.
At 7:30 a.m. that morning, Captain Edward Smith, our boy who led the Olympics maiden voyage and also was there when she smacked into the Hawk, that guy, our boy, Captain Smith, he boarded the Titanic along with the remainder of his crew. His 7 officers were already on board. They had spent the night before on just making sure that she was running correctly.
Oh, that is a dedicated crew, though. They're like, we're just gonna, spend the night at work an extra night early just to make sure.
Oh, I think it's part of their job. I don't think that they did it because they wanted to. I think it's because it's part of their contract.
Hey, I think they did it because they wanted to. They just love ships.
They just love ships. They specifically love this ship.
This ship.
This is a good ship.
It's a good ship.
It's a good ship. So, 8 a.m. 2 lifeboats were lowered in a very brief safety drill. And this was more of like a presentation than a safety drill. It was like, look, our lifeboats go up and down. They're in the water.
So safe.
And then they come back up again. Wow.
Wow. People were like, whoa.
Yeah, so they picked 2 lifeboats from the starboard side, the right side, which were lifeboats 11 and 12. And they were gently paraded up and down for people to see, like, look, lifeboat. And everyone was like, lifeboat, lifeboat. So, second and third class passengers boarded the Titanic as early as 9:30 a.m., 2.5 hours before scheduled departure. And it really did not take long for passengers to immediately start swarming this boat, being like, what is this? We're gonna look. What's over here?
Ooh, ooh.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Did you see the bathtubs?
Did you see the bathtubs? Only first class could look at the bathtubs. These second class and third class, they were not allowed to look at the bathtubs.
Don't you even look at my bathtub. Okay, you're too poor to even look at my bathtub.
You cannot afford to look at my bathtub.
Yeah.
Not on my inverted bathtub, no, sir. And keep in mind, this is going to be their home for the next couple of days. So, they're getting familiar. Modern cruise ships are exactly the same. A loading day, when people are coming onto the ship, the first thing they do is get into the weirdest fucking places. The amount of times I have had to pull passengers out of theaters, out of dining rooms that are not open. We found people in, like, our closed art gallery. We found people trying to break into the bridge. It's like, sir, you cannot be here. You physically.
But it's the first day. That's the day to ask your dumb questions and to get into trouble.
Yeah, that's the day of forgiveness, and the day after is not the day for forgiveness. But yeah, it's like the weird. Like they'll just find. People are exploring. They're also looking for the place to get drunk, and I don't think much is different. Like I'm pretty sure the exact same with the Titanic. People were like, "Where's the bar? Where's the dining room? Where's the champagne? Where's the band that's playing our little ditty so that we can sip champagne and cheers on this big giant inverted bathtub?"
That's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah. So second and third class, they're scrambling around. They're looking around. They're still kind of allowed to interact. First class passengers actually only arrived at 11:30, 30 minutes before scheduled departure, because fashionably late. There's also that there's less first class passengers, so they didn't need that much. And pretty much like if a first class passenger wasn't showing up, like they'd already paid for the ticket. We don't really care.
Yeah, that's fair.
First class and second class were allowed to mingle while they were boarding, which is actually very unusual for the time. Usually it was very segregated. It was like third class, get in, don't be seen. Second class, get in, be seen but not heard. And first class, this is your boat. this is your boat. But the first class and second class, we actually were allowed to share dining rooms sometimes on the White Star Line, which is very uncommon.
Wow.
So featured on this grand tour of the lovely Titanic, we were looking at the two main staircases, first class and second class. The first class being slightly better, but the second class is pretty okay. They took a look at the libraries, which were exclusive to each class. There were elevators on board, which is such a weird thing to think about. Elevators in 1912, I don't know why my brain was like, that's not a thing. But they had them.
No, that's crazy.
They had them. The dining rooms were on the tour, restaurants, of course, the Turkish baths for the first class passengers. When the White Star Line did luxury, they did luxury. Like, they were showing off. They're like, we don't do speed, but we do this. This is what we do.
Yeah. You want velvet? Velvet everything. Velvet tub.
Yeah, crushed velvet. There's velvet on the bottom of your Turkish bath.
Wow.
That's how heavy we are.
That's class.
That's class.
That is class.
We've also filled the Turkish bath exclusively with the champagne we were going to christen the boat with.
Oh my god.
Yes. So yeah, the first thing people said when they saw the Titanic was actually it was more like a hotel than a liner. Like she was in a league entirely on her own. Like liners, they had a specific vibe to them. Even cruise ships today have kind of a vibe to them. The people came onto the Titanic. They were like, "This is a land hotel. Like she's classy."
Yeah.
Steerage were not permitted to mingle due to immigration laws, because oftentimes steerage was in fact, people emigrating, so they were not allowed to interact with second and first class. But they did get their own little tour of their own smoking rooms, dining halls, and very spacious accommodation for the time, which was like a huge upgrade. They were like, "Wow, look at all this space we have. We can actually widen our elbows out. We can actually like reach out and touch both walls."
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, it was nice. So there were actually 4 crew members who failed to make it on board in Southampton, which I'm like, foreshadowing? Or maybe just bad luck. So the 4 crew members that failed to make it were actually 3 brothers named Alfred, Bertram, and Thomas Slade, as well as a man named Penny. So the 4 had actually spent the night before drinking, and they were on their way to the docks, albeit a little bit hungover, but a passing train coming through Southampton delayed their journey by just a little bit too much, and the Titanic had already left by the time they made it to the docks.
Talk about divine intervention, man.
Yeah, well, I'm sure at the time they were really kicking themselves over it, because I'm like, what, like, working an inaugural, it's a big deal. And then hearing about what happened later, them just going, oh shit, that could have been us.
Yeah, that's
because
crazy.
I have a feeling, I think they were stokers. The survivability for crew was not great. It was not great.
No, sir.
No, sir-we-do. So at noon, everyone was loaded, except, the people who decided that they didn't want to be there. Everyone was loaded, the whistle blew, and the crowd began to gather in cheers. The Titanic began her descent into her maiden voyage. Mm-hmm. So weirdly enough, the White Star Line did actually not schedule a band or a speech or any sort of like, we're doing it, boys, we're setting the Titanic off on her maiden voyage. There was none of that. And in truth, they didn't really need to. Just the sheer number of onlookers made the Titanic a phenomenon all on her own. So they didn't need a band, they didn't need speeches, they didn't need, all of the pomp and circumstance, like just the people cheering, waving the White Star flags, clapping, it was all, and that was enough. It was a great success.
Wow.
So the Titanic was pulled out of Southampton because she's a big boat and she can't really make it out on her own. So she was pulled out of the Southampton harbor by 6 much smaller tugboats. However, Titanic a real big girl. She's real big. And when she was being pulled out of the harbor, she generated quite a lot of suction in the harbor.
Oh, no.
Now, the suction that she generated was so strong, it actually snapped the mooring of another liner.
Oh, my gosh.
So she pulled the ship, the New York, weirdly enough, one of the ships that went to assist the Republic way back when in one of the incidents. Mm-hmm. She pulled the New York free of the tether.
Wow.
So New York was pulled towards the Titanic and actually almost collided with her. She came within 4 feet of the Titanic.
That's great. Just because, like you said, just the generation of the suction.
Yeah, just that sensation of this huge boat being pulled from the walls. There's just this massive pull of water. New York was snapped free, came within 4 feet of the Titanic, and thankfully the small tugboats actually caught the New York. So they managed to grapple hold of the New York and stopped the two from colliding. But I almost think that that's like a weird omen. of like things, especially because the New York was one of the Republic's, one of the Republic's rescue ships. And so, like, here's the ship that helped try to stop a previous White Star Line disaster, now almost colliding with their latest White Star Liner. It's very strange.
That is really weird. Like you said, this ship just can't escape other White Star ships.
Yeah, you know. So nobody was harmed, thankfully. It was more of just like a spectacle rather than any damage was done. It did, however, cause an hour delay, though, because, of course, the tugs had to let go of the Titanic, stop the New York, put the New York back, and then commence pulling the Titanic out of the harbor. So instead of leaving at noon, she left at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Despite all this, the Titanic's maiden voyage was now underway. So the Titanic's first stop, because we've got stops now, was Cherbourg, France, which was directly across the English Channel from Southampton. And of course, as we said before, this was the common stopping point. This was where they could pick up their second batch of passengers. So she pulled into Cherbourg Harbor about 4 p.m. the same day. And passengers would only be allowed to board around 6:35 p.m., so kind of late into the day.
Okay.
Now, the Titanic, living up to her name, was a bit too big for Cherbourg, and she actually couldn't dock in Cherbourg.
Oh, okay.
Instead, what the White Star Line did was they had a bunch of smaller ferry ships to take passengers from the dock onto the Titanic. So these are called tender ships.
Okay.
So the two that belonged to the White Star Line were two ships called the Nomadic and the Traffic.
And the Traffic.
I love the Traffic. So here's a fun fact about the Nomadic. The Nomadic is the only White Star Line ship left in the world today.
Wow. Okay. Fun fact. That is a really fun fact.
Yes, that's a real fun fact. So this little ferry boat's the only living White Star Line ship today. Kind of spoiler alerts for what's going to happen, but there you go. So she was retired in 1974 and then converted into a restaurant on the Seine River. In 2006, she was purchased by Northern Ireland, just in general.
Okay.
And then she was restored back to her former glory. So basically, she was restored back to her ferry boat way and is now a historical public touring thing in Belfast.
Wow.
Where you can go and, like, tour her and see what a White Star Line ship was actually like.
Wow. That's neato.
So there you go. So there's your fun tidbit for today. There's the Nomadic and the Traffic.
That is a fun
They were little twin sisters. So about 274 people boarded at Cherbourg, and 22 people got off. Okay. So some people were only using this as a ferry ship to get from England to France, and then they took over that with 274 people, bringing them back on board.
Okay.
Also, can you imagine being one of those people who just decided to use the Titanic on her maiden voyage as a ferry to get to France? They're just like, I just want to go over there. I just want to hop over.
I mean, like, it's like you said, it's a boat. That's what it's meant to do.
But it's also like, when you hear about what happened later, and I'm like, I was on the Titanic on its maiden voyage, but I got off in France because I was like, I just wanted to go to France.
That's where my stop was.
Yeah. Man, talk about a close call.
Yeah.
So it was about 8:10 p.m. when the Titanic departed Cherbourg and made her way to her final stop before New York, which was Queenstown, Ireland. So Southampton, crossed the Channel to France, went back up, swung up, hit Ireland, and then was going to cross the Atlantic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Queenstown actually does not exist anymore as Queenstown. It's now a town called Cobb. But back in the day, it was Queenstown. So the Titanic sailed overnight and arrived in Queenstown around 11:30 a.m., April 11th. Just like Cherbourg, Queenstown Port, a bit too small for the Titanic because she's a real big boat. And boats, like, she's also the largest in the world, so the ports aren't really designed for ships her size yet.
Yeah.
So once again, two tenders were used here to ferry people from Heartbreak Jetty.
Okay.
What a name.
Yeah.
Heartbreak Jetty inside the port onto the Titanic. These two tenders were called the PS Ireland and the PS America.
Okay.
So despite their names, they were White Star owned, and they were little paddle boats.
Oh. Okay.
We paddle boated over.
That's cute.
So 123 people boarded here, and 7 disembarked. So once again, people just using this as a ferry, whether they wanted to go from England to Ireland or France to Ireland. But people were like, all right, see ya.
That's crazy. And they're just paddle boating back and forth, like you said, between this,
Yeah, they only had to paddle boat 123 people over, so I'm sure they could do it very quickly, and then they just took people back.
Yeah.
So, weirdly enough, one crew member, a young coal stoker named John Coffey, actually jumped ship in Queenstown. He was supposed to be there all the way to New York, but he just got like a bad vibe. He even claimed he had a sense of foreboding about the voyage. And was just like, I'm getting off. I gotta get off. And he just hopped ship and abandoned.
Wow. That's very weird.
Yeah. So I'm sure people gave him a real bother kick for that. They were like, you can't just abandon your post like that. And then what happened? I mean, say what you will, but it saved his life.
Yeah, that's wild though. Like you said, that he's just like, no, I just had a real bad feeling.
Yeah, so I got off in Ireland. It's much easier to get home from Ireland. And most of the crew were actually from Southampton, so most did not have family in Ireland. It was pretty easy to go from Ireland back to Southampton.
Gotcha.
So before we get into the real voyage, let's talk about the guest list for a little bit.
Okay.
And so there's all sorts of people traveling on the Titanic from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of walks of life.
Duh,
so there are
Rose and Jack.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later. So I'm not going to talk about all of the passengers, but I'm just going to kind of hit up a couple of notable ones, just so you have an idea of who was on the Titanic, and then we can talk about their fates a bit later.
Okay.
So there were 324 first-class passengers, 284 second-class passengers, and 709 third-class passengers. Overall, there were about 107 children on board, mainly traveling in third class. First class people just didn't have children. There were approximately 805 adult men and about 402 adult women. There were also 13 honeymoon and couples on board. So let's talk about the first class. So the average cost of a first class ticket was about $150 at the time. So significantly more spicy. And that was just for the bare bones first class ticket. The pricier suites went up as high as $4,500.
$4,000. Holy guacamole.
$4,000, which is kind of the price of a bare bones cruise line ticket nowadays.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
yeah, that was the most expensive first class cabin, was $4,500. So let's talk about some of our first class passengers. So our first notable first class passenger was a woman named Dorothy Gibson.
Dorothy.
She was 22 years old. She was a New York model and a very popular silent film actress. She sang and danced in numerous Broadway productions, and she was actually featured in countless magazines, postcards, and all sorts of merchandise because she was so beautiful.
Wow.
So she had just finished completing a number of silent films and had been vacationing in Europe with her mother. So Dorothy booked a first-class passage with her mother on the Titanic to head back to New York. So she was on her way back to Broadway, to the city that never sleeps, so that she could get back to work.
Wow.
So we'll come back to Dorothy. Our next notable passenger is a man named John Jacob Astor IV. John Jacob Astor IV was the wealthiest passenger on board, and possibly the wealthiest man alive at the time.
Wow. Okay. I see where some conspiracy theories come into play with him being on board.
Yes, so Astor was an American business magnate.
Business magician.
He was a business magician. He just made money. He just made money appear. That's why he was the wealthiest. Bam, easy. He was a real estate developer, investor, writer, and he was a very prominent member of the Astor family, which was a very influential old money family. He came from a very long line of successful businessmen. He had recently divorced his wife, Ava Lowell Willing, in 1909. And to add to the scandal of it all, because divorce at the time was a big no-no, he had just remarried an 18-year-old socialite named Madeline Talmage Force.
Oh, my dear.
Astor was 47 at the time.
Oh, my dear.
He was 29 years her senior.
Oh, my dear.
So that just adds a little bit to the scandal. And on top of that, Madeline was pregnant at the time.
The ex-wife did it.
The ex-wife did it.
The ex-wife did it. She killed the whole Titanic because crazy.
Because that was going on.
That is insane.
So both he and a pregnant Madeline boarded the Titanic, wanting their child to be born in the U.S. Because, of course, if a child is born in the U.S., it gets a free American passport. It's just how it works, baby.
Yeah, that's how my family got here.
Mine did not, but we're maybe next time.
My grandma literally got pregnant and was like, head to America now, ASAP, so I can have the baby there. And that was my mom.
It's quite a problem. It's quite a problem. But it works.
It works.
That's how America works, baby.
Yeah.
So they boarded in Cherbourg in France, and they were accompanied by Astor's valet, Madeline's maid, and her nurse, as well as their dog, Kitty.
Oh, their dog, Kitty.
their dog Kitty.
Have you ever read that book, A Dog Named Kitty?
I have not, and I don't know if I want to.
It's a sad, sad book.
I believe it, especially with what I know about the Titanic.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Moving swiftly on. Our next notable passenger is our lovely boy, Benjamin Guggenheim.
Guggenheim? He was on this boat?
Guggenheim. He was on this boat.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on Guggenheim.
Guggenheim was on this boat. So a very wealthy American businessman. Guggenheim boarded the Titanic in first class with his mistress.
With just public mistress?
Just public mistress. All of them had public mistresses, let's be honest.
I guess that's true. It wasn't that much of a secret. It was just like, hey, don't pay attention if you don't want to know.
Yeah, so he was on the Titanic in first class with his mistress, who was a French singer, Leontine Aubert. What a name. He was also with his secretary, Victor Giglio, his chauffeur, René Pernot, and Madame Aubert's maid, Emma Saficer.
Okay. Who needs a maid on a cruise ship? They do stuff for you.
No, not on liners. You had your own personal maidservants. They just had stewards for restaurants.
What? You had to bring your own maid? They don't just do turn-down service for you?
Well, this would also, remember, this is the time of corsets, so this was to help people get dressed.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
We're getting real dapper.
Yeah,
especially in first class. It was kind of a necessity. It was a necessity. Yes. All right. Our next notable man on board in first class. So we have Isidor Straus. So Isidor Straus was a politician and co-owner of Macy's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got big money on this boat.
Wow.
He was also a director of the newly formed Mutual Alliance Trust Company, along with William Rockefeller, Cornelius Vanderbilt, and Emmanuel Lehman.
So we had a Rockefeller on this boat. We had a Guggenheim on this
No, there was not a Rockefeller on this boat. We had Isidor Straus, who was in partnership with a Rockefeller.
Oh, I thought you said he was with his partner.
No, he had just formed the Mutual Trust Company with Rockefeller.
Gotcha.
But Rockefeller and Vanderbilt were not on board.
Gotcha. I misunderstood. My bad.
No, it's all good. I'm here to clarify. So he and his wife Ida were traveling back from a winter getaway in France when they booked first-class tickets aboard the Titanic to go home.
Wow.
Also on board, we have the Countess of Rhodes.
Wow.
We have a whole ass countess.
A whole countess. Wow.
So the Countess of Rhodes was Lucy Noel Martha Leslie, and she was our onboard member of British royalty.
That was a lot of names.
Yeah, you're royal. You have to have at least 4 names.
Yeah, it tells you how rich you are. You can afford more names.
Mm-hmm. You buy your names.
Yeah.
So she boarded in Southampton with her parents, her husband's cousin, Gladys Cherry, and her maid, Roberta Maui, I think is how you say her last name. Or Maui?
Maui?
Maui, I think it is. Maui. Her parents actually disembarked in Cherbourg, while the others were going to make their way to New York to meet up with the Countess of Rhodes' husband, the Earl of Rhodes, who was already over there, just living his life. The Countess was originally booked in a basic first-class cabin, but after seeing what the basic could do, and they were like, I am literally British royalty, it's believed that they upgraded into a much more spacious suite.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So also featured on our first class list, we have one of our oldest passengers on board. This was a woman named Mrs. Mary Eliza Compton. She was 64 years old, and she was traveling with her son Alexander and daughter Sarah Compton.
Why does that name sound familiar? Are they anything?
They're not anything. That was just their notable thing. Their oldest, one of the oldest. She's the oldest female passenger, is Mrs. Mary Eliza Compton.
Mary Eliza Compton. I just don't know. That name sounds so familiar. I think it's just because it's a 3-parter name.
Yeah, it's a 3-parter name, and she's in first class, so she probably did something.
Yeah.
So, additionally, our next passenger is Thomas Andrew Jr. himself, the Olympic and Titanic's designer.
Okay.
So, as was standard, he was traveling on the maiden voyage, much like he did with the Adriatic and the he designed the Adriatic and the Oceanic as well. He had done the Olympics maiden voyage, and now he was hitting the Titanic's maiden voyage. He often sailed aboard ships as part of the Guarantee Group, which was basically Harland Wolff's best engineers, carpenters, electricians, and the like, making sure that everything was working, seeing if they could improve upon anything. They were basically, just checking to make sure, are people happy? What are they complaining about? How can we fix this? Can we fix it right now? Or is this something that's going to go and improve in our next design?
Nice.
Yeah, so that he was basically there just for, quality control.
Yeah.
And here's a weird thing. The Titanic actually wasn't complete when she was setting sail on her maiden voyage.
Oh.
So some of her interior areas didn't have heating, and other areas had a tendency to overheat. So Thomas Andrews was actually keeping an eye on these areas to make sure that, one, they weren't making guests uncomfortable, and two, to see if he could try and come up with a quick fix while they were out at sea.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. Also on board was Baby Ismay.
Baby Ismay.
Baby Ismay, J. Bruce Ismay himself was on board the Titanic. A bit like Andrews, he kind of made it a habit of traveling on a ship's maiden voyages just to make sure that they were working okay, and also to kind of gloat and go, "Ha ha, Cunard, look at us! We made a better ship!" He was just sitting on the bow with his fist shaking, going, "Come on, Cunard, what you got?"
It's your move next, Cunard.
Yeah, so he was not there to make anything better, but simply just because he was reveling in the successes of his company. He was really proud of the Titanic. He was really proud of the Olympic. This was kind of his way to show Papa Ismay that he was doing all right.
Yeah.
So he had boarded with his valet and his secretary, and he was really excited to see Olympic's younger sister succeed, because he was like, Olympic's kind of limping along right now. We really need this success.
Yeah.
So, moving on to second class, we have the LaRoche family.
The LaRoche.
So this is all second class. So the LaRoche family was Joseph LaRoche, who was 26, and he was a Haitian national, and he was actually studying engineering in France, where he met his wife, Juliette. The couple had 2 daughters, and Juliette discovered she was pregnant with the 3rd child in March of 1912, so right before the Titanic set sail.
And they were going to do that sneaky thing and have a baby in America.
They actually were not.
Oh.
So the couple had actually decided to move back to Haiti to find a better paying engineering job. So
heck
right
yeah.
now it was getting real competitive up in France, and because Joseph was Haitian, there was a bit of discrimination. So getting an actual engineering job in France was difficult. So they were actually booked on a steamship called France, and they were going to take that back to America to get to Haiti.
That was really confusing.
I know, right? There was a steamship named France that they were originally booked onto that was going to Haiti, and the second class tickets were actually a gift from Joseph's mother. She was so excited to find out that her son and his family were coming back. She's like, "I'm gonna pay for the ticket. We're gonna bring you back to Haiti. We're gonna get you a better job. We're gonna make sure that my 3rd grandchild is gonna be born here, like amongst family.
Yeah.
This is my gift to you."
Wow.
Unfortunately, the France, the ship that they were booked on originally, had a no child in the dining room policy, which is no go when you have 2 small kids.
Yeah.
And a pregnant wife.
Where did the children supposed to just eat? Did they just not eat on the trip?
There were other dining rooms, but these were like the public dining rooms. Children just weren't allowed. Also, a lot of these ships were not child friendly. Just flat out, they were not
child friendly back in the day.
The world. This is also, most children were 3rd class. This is something to remember. Children were in 2nd class and 1st class were very uncommon. Children were a 3rd class problem. So the LaRoches were like, "Hell no, you are not splitting us from our kids and preventing them from eating." So they decided to transfer to the better ship, the Titanic.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. Our second more notable second class passenger was a guy named Mitchell Navratil. He was a French tailor who was originally from Slovakia. He booked second class for himself and his 2 sons, Edmund and Mitchell Jr., whom he had kidnapped.
I'm sorry?
You heard me. Mitchell had kidnapped his sons, and to get them away from his estranged wife, Marcel Corretto, and he had boarded the Titanic to get them away from her.
Okay.
So Marcel actually had custody of the 2 boys, and Mitchell only had the kids for Easter. When Marcel came to pick up the kids, all 3 had gone missing.
That is...
At that time, they were all on the Titanic on their way to the U.S.
not good.
And obviously, Mitchell was like, "Marcel is never going to follow me to New York. I'm scot-free. I get to keep the kids. That bitch of an ex-wife of mine will never take my sons."
Oh, jeez.
So Mitchell Navratil was actually sailing under a pseudonym, and he had changed his name to Charles Hoffman and booked the young boys under pseudonyms as well. So during the cruise, during the actual voyage, Mitchell spun a tale about how Mrs. Hoffman was dead, and he was keeping his 2 sons on very short leashes while they were out at sea.
Wow.
So we got a little sick mini crime going on inside the Titanic.
Wow. Subcrime.
Oh, and I think I didn't mention this before, but so the cost of a second class ticket at the time was about $60 at the time.
What? That's a huge difference.
Yeah. For first class being what, 150?
Yeah, that's crazy. Or on the top of the line being 4,000.
Yeah. Those were for like the really luxurious suites that had their own promenade decks attached. So those were just for like the parlor staterooms.
Yeah.
So like you were paying basically for an entire deck.
That's crazy.
Standard first class, 150. Standard second class was $60
Wow.
at the time. So moving swiftly onto our third class. Average cost of a third class ticket was anywhere from $15 to $40, depending on what you needed. Our notable third class passengers are the Goodwin family. So this was made up of Frederick Goodwin, his wife Augusta, and their 6 children.
Okay.
So they had left Fulham, England. They were heading to Niagara Falls, New York. Frederick was actually heading there for a new job opening there at the power station since he was an electrical engineer. Now, the Goodwins could afford to travel in second class because they were kind of well off, but they'd actually booked a third class on a smaller ship to save money just in case the move had some complications. So they were kind of curating a little nest egg just in case he didn't get the job or they had a couple of landing issues.
Yeah, smart.
The ship they were actually booked on got canceled due to the coal strikes. Remember that thing that they were trying to like scramble all the coal for the Titanic? That was actually affecting other ships. So rather than stick around, the whole family transferred onto the Titanic as third class passengers. Yep.
Goodness.
So the oldest passenger on board was actually traveling in third class, and this was Mr. Johann Stephenson. He was almost 75 years old, and he was traveling with his son, Johann Ekstrom. So that's our oldest passenger on board.
Wow. Okay.
Third class is also where our youngest passengers on board are. So Melvina Dean was 2 months old and was traveling in third class with her parents Bertram Frank Dean and Eva Georgetta Dean, as well as her older brother Bertram Ver Dean. The second youngest was a boy named Gilbert Sigvard Danbom, and he was 4 months old. He was traveling with his parents Ernst Gilbert Danbom and Anna Sigrid Danbom.
That's so sad.
So we've covered our notable passengers, but I also kind of wanted to touch on a couple of the passengers who did not sail that were supposed to.
Okay.
So there were quite a few people who were supposed to be on board the Titanic and actually even had tickets to the esteemed event, but for one reason or another did not make it on board, either because they missed it, they got delayed, or they were actually on the return trip, so they were waiting in New York to come back.
Ah, okay.
So our first notable did not sail was a guy called Milton Hershey. I don't know if you've heard of the Hershey family.
Oh my gosh.
So literally the founder of the Hershey confectionery store. Hershey and his wife were booked on the maiden voyage, but unfortunately, or fortunately, had to cancel last minute due to a business matter. So actually business flagged up. They were like, it's a real shame. We're going to miss the inaugural of the Titanic, but we've got to take care of this.
Dang.
Mrs. Kitty Hershey, Milton Hershey's wife, had actually also been ill for a couple of years prior to this. So instead, the couple booked a later voyage on the SS America on a German liner to go back to America.
Jeez.
John Mott was another notable did not sail passenger. He was an evangelist. He was an evangelist and long-serving leader of the YMCA.
Okay. The whole YMCA.
The whole YMCA. So Mott and a colleague were offered free passage on the Titanic to go back to New York, but they actually declined to take a much more humble SS Lapland across to New York at a separate time.
They're like, nah, we don't need the fancy, flashy Titanic. We'll just go on whatever little boat you got for us.
We've got the SS Lapland, we're all good. It's not the YMCA way.
Jeez.
So our next notable did not sail is George Washington Vanderbilt II.
Oh.
So this is a member of our most prestigious Vanderbilt family who had amassed quite the fortune from steamboats, railroads, and other various Vanderbilt ventures. So George Washington Vanderbilt II and his wife Edith were booked on the Titanic, but phoned White Star Line to travel instead on a much earlier voyage aboard the Olympic.
Okay.
So the stories why kind of vary. Some reports that say George's mother had a premonition about the Titanic, warned the couple that it would be their doom.
Wow.
Another report says that a well-traveled family member, possibly Edith's sister, warned the couple, saying so many things can go wrong on a maiden voyage, it's just not worth the risk. Later, however, Edith herself wrote a letter to a friend saying, there was no reason whatsoever that we decided to sail on the Olympic. For no reason whatsoever, we decided to sail on the Olympic, and we only had 18 hours to get ready, and we were homesick and simply felt that we must get home, and changed our ship, as I say at the 11th hour. So with all that said, the change of the booking was actually too sudden to get their luggage off the Titanic in time. So they traveled on the Olympic, but their bags were on the Titanic. Oh. Instead, to watch their bags, to make sure nobody was going through the Vanderbilt stuff, George Washington Vanderbilt II sent a servant, Frederick Wheeler, to watch their bags and stay on the Titanic because he had a ticket. So their servant was on the Titanic watching their bags.
That's really sad.
Yeah. So our next notable do not sail is a man called Guglielmo Marconi. I don't know if you've heard of him. It's Marconi plays the Mamba himself. So this is the inventor of the Marconi wireless system, which the Titanic was equipped with. It was a state-of-the-art model. Wow. He had a ticket for the return trip to Southampton. So he was in New York waiting for the Titanic to come back. And he was actually going to meet with the Titanic's radio operators who were Marconi employees. So he was going to check with them, make sure everything was running smoothly, and then he was going to enjoy the inaugural back to Southampton. Wow, okay. Yeah, so he was just going to be there just to make sure that everything was going well on the maiden voyage, and then he was going to enjoy it on the way back. Didn't make it. So Lord Peary himself, our chairman of the Harland and Wolff shipbuilders, best ones in Belfast, he was supposed to be on the onboard group along with Ismay and Andrews, his nephew. But he actually got ill right before the voyage, so he was really excited to go on the Titanic, and they were going to have like a little boys club going like, oh, like look, this thing we all built together, it's going to be great. Oh gosh. And then he got sick. So then instead he delegated his tasks to his nephew, Thomas Andrews, and he was like, make him proud, kid, make sure that everything's going well, I'll see you on the other side. Yeah, okay. And our notable person. Our finable, notable people. Our final notable person who did not sail is none other than J.P. Morgan himself. Wow. So, the owner of everything, king of the White Star Line, he was supposed to be on the Titanic voyage. He was actually booked in one of the $4,500 estate rooms. He had his own private promenade. That was going to be his room. And like at the 11th hour, like the day before, he canceled and dropped out of the trip.
For what reason?
It's never said. He never gave a real reason as to why he dropped out, but he was also responsible for inviting Guggenheim, Strauss, Astor, Vanderbilt. He was one who actually gave out the personal tickets, being like, hey guys, come check out my boat. Oh, I really want you to come check this out. Oh, sus.
Oh, J.P. Morgan, boy, you have a sussy Baca shirt on right now. It says, I am sussy Baca, and it has an arrow pointing up in his face.
Take what you will out of that, but he invited all these wealthy people on. He said he was going to be there, even booked the wealthiest room for himself, and then he just never showed.
That, I guess.
Do you remember that hat that we're filling?
Let me guess. This is where you're going to end the episode.
It's not. It's not. But we're going to pick that little piece of information that you've noticed, and we're going to put it right back in the hat.
Oh,
we're going to take it, put it in the hat. That hat is getting real full, but we're putting it there.
Overflowing.
Keep it in the hat. Keep it on. Keep it in the hat. Your hat is now an inverted bathtub.
Everything is now an inverted bathtub.
Everything is now an inverted bathtub. You're welcome.
This is what I was worried about.
All right, so we're going to talk about the crew next. So overall, there were 908 crew members on board. 885 of these were male. 23 of them were female. Included in this were 8 officers. So, starting from the very, very top, we have our captain. Mm-hmm. So, Captain Commander Edward John Smith. He's the guy who was doing the Olympics maiden voyage. He did the Hawk crash. He was promised the maiden voyage of the Titanic, as well as the maiden voyage of their younger sister, the Gigantic, later known as the Britannic. He was actually nearing retirement at the time of the Titanic's maiden voyage. He was one of, if not the most experienced captain working for the White Star Line. So he was the big deal. He was the big cheese, real influential guy. His officers were the chief officer, Lieutenant Henry Tingle Wild, First Officer Lieutenant William McMaster Murdoch. Second Officer Sub-Lieutenant Charles Herbert Lightoller. Third Officer Herbert John Pittman. Fourth Officer Sub-Lieutenant Joseph Groves Boxhall, who was 28 years old.
Okay.
The fifth officer, Sub-Lieutenant Harold Godfrey Lowe, was 29, and he had actually been in service on ships since the age of 14. So, wow. He was a well nautical little guy. I don't know how tall he was.
Just a little guy. Just a little guy.
He's just a little guy. And then finally, our top officers, we had the sixth officer, James Paul Moody, who was 24 years old. So the youngest crew members on board were 14 years old. So they were kind of following in the footsteps of our lovely fifth officer.
Okay.
They were Frederick William Hopkins, who was a plate steward, and William Albert Watson, who was a bellboy.
What is a plate steward?
I believe they are working in the restaurants.
Oh.
So he would bring foods and things.
Why did I think like a plate, like a boiler plate or something? I don't know.
I mean, it might be. He was stewarding the boiler plates. Who knows?
I don't know. I thought that was like I don't know. I overthought that position way too much. Sorry. Anyway.
I probably should have done more research on what these actual positions entailed, but I just saw that he was a plate steward, and I was like, that's self-explanatory, probably. And we're going to just we'll just hold on to that.
Yeah. All of the plates on the whole ship. He was in charge of them.
Yeah. He was stewarding all of those plates. So the deck crew, the deck crew consisted of 2 doctors, so a surgeon and an assistant surgeon. So just in case, you had a terrible accident, you had, an actual surgeons on board. Mm-hmm. There were 29 seamen, 2 boatswain mates, 2 master-at-arms, 7 quartermasters, 1 storekeeper, 2 carpenters/joiners, 6 lookouts, 6 mess hall stewards, 2 lamp trimmers, and 2 window cleaners.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lot of boys.
That's a lot of boys.
That's just the deck crew. Keep in mind, that's just for the people who were out on deck.
Wow, that's actually that's crazy. How many people did you say in total were on crew?
There were a total of 908 crew members on board.
Man.
So that's just the deck crew. For the engineering crew, that was made up of 25 engineers, 10 electricians, 12 stoker foremen, 163 stokers, 73 coal trimmers, and 33 greasers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here's that weird fact for you that's coming back again. So there were 2 Olympic survivors who were also on board as crew. So people who were on the Olympic when she smashed into the Hawk. Mm-hmm. This was stewardess Violet Jessup and stoker Arthur John Priest. So they went from one sister tragedy to the next.
It's eerie.
Yeah. So with everybody accounted for and her course charted, the Titanic sailed away from Ireland. It was about 1:20 p.m. when the Titanic left Queenstown and began her trek across the Atlantic. So overall, she could hold around 3,550 people.
Wow.
But for her maiden voyage, she only had 2,223 people. So she was at 60% capacity.
Okay.
At the time that she entered the Atlantic, she had 1,324 passengers and 908 crew. And that's where we're going to end this episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, so we're still not at the tragedy.
Well, I mean, up until this point, like you said, we told you it was going to be a lot of context, and we're here for the context. We set it up, and
yes,
we have seen too many comparisons between the Titanic, like you said, the Olympic, all of the other icks preceding this.
You can kind of see where this is going. These last 3 episodes, we have been completely boiling down to next episode, which we are going to just talk about the iceberg incident in its entirety. So just a heads up for next week, guys. The next episode is going to be the bummer episode. This is unfortunately, that's when the collision happens. This is when we learn of the Titanic's fate, and I go into a pretty decent deep dive. I try not to get too sad with it, but unfortunately, like, if you know you know.
Yeah.
Like, the Titanic's not a happy event. So
yeah.
But that is, we're kind of coming to a close on my context, sort of. More on that next week.
It's the pre-context. We're going to get into the middle context, okay? There's still a lot more context.
We've concluded the pre-context. We're actually at the Titanic this time, which, that's crazy. And yeah, I'm keen to talk about her first and final journey across the North Atlantic.
Man, what a tragic sentence. but we will muster up and we will get through it. And as much as like you said, it's one of those Bonnie and Clyde. I know we use that like kind of very sparingly now, but like, or not sparingly, very liberally now with the Bonnie and Clyde title. But like I feel like the Titanic falls very much into that like category of just like everybody knows the story. It is something just because there's a movie about it too. Like it's something that very much like highlights it and kind of like romanticizes it, maybe more like than it should. And so I think like some of us look at it, and I think that's even why now sometimes like we kind of make some jokes and maybe it seems insensitive, but it's like, it's something that it's hard to wrap your head around. It's a giant tragedy. It's 2,000 people. I just don't think people really are able to fathom that without being there.
I think I 100% agree. Like when I started Bonnie and Clyde, I didn't really. Everyone knows the story of Bonnie and Clyde, but like nobody knows the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Like we knew it ended badly, but like doing my research and then telling you the story, I don't think either of us realized just how tragic the ending of Bonnie and Clyde was. I think this is going to be very similar, where everyone knows like we hit the iceberg. Spoiler alert for next episode, we're hitting the iceberg, but I don't think people know just how it all went down. The events leading, like the events immediately before the actual collision and then the events after. I think we put it very much into a movie scope where it was like they hit the iceberg, but thankfully help was on its way and they saved all that they could. And then this is going to put into light like just the time. There's a lot of time that we're going to be covering. It's all in one day, but we are covering a lot of time. Yeah. And I think it'll be a surprise. So, we're going to end this episode here. Alana, thank you once again for sitting down with me for another 2 hours and let me talk to you about boats.
Ma'am, it is an honor and a privilege. Anytime.
And where I promise, guys, we're about the halfway point of the script. Not to give how many parts this is going to be away, but we're about halfway through. So while I go and rest and recover for a week and just mentally prepare myself to tell you about a horrible event, Alana, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Spookery Podcast. And, if you want to send us a message and contact us in any way, shape, or form, you can find us where, lady?
You can send us a Gmail at spookerypodcast@gmail.com, and you can send all of your questions, concerns, additions. You can also send me a message going, why did you do such a long part? Why did you do Titanic? Why did you do this? Why have you taken over 6 weeks or more of Titanic? Why have you done this? And I'd be like, haha, lol, and that's all I'm going to send back. So if you want that, I'm sure I'll probably write something more insightful, but it will start off with haha, lol. And that's a Spookery guarantee.
I can see that.
Man, oh man.
Oh my gosh. Well, ma'am, this has been truly a great lead up to what I think is going to be a phenomenal next episode. Truly. I know it is going to be a bummer of an episode, but it is, the climax of all climaxes as far as like leading up to an event. Yeah. So I'm eager to talk about it.
It's quite literally the tip of the iceberg.
Literally. But like what I'm more eager is like, we really like, we're talking about this event and I'm very eager to talk about it and learn about it. But like, we haven't even touched on the conspiracy either.
No, that's a great reminder. This is a conspiracy theory episode, everybody.
This is not just a history lesson. This is a conspiracy theory episode, and we will learn. I have some theories that are starting to brew, but I'm eager to see what the conspiracy theory is.
I think you'll find that there's quite a few, and I've hinted at probably all of them. Most of them. I've hinted at most of them up until this point. I'm excited. So tune in next week and see how many more we tackle. And start writing them down. Start thinking like, get your tinfoil hats on. Where's this gonna go?
Where's this gonna go?
Alrighty, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. Yeah. Until next time, everybody.
Stay spooky. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. See ya.
Say goodbye.
Bye. So a skeleton crew boarded her, and off to she went. And off to
the slap happiness is here.
Off to sea she went. Ooh, I love bathtubs.
Oh, she's getting so passionate again about the bathtub.
I just love bathtubs so much.
Oh my god, I can't breathe.
Fuck, we're never gonna finish this episode. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's my bad. It's me thinking about bathtubs again.